Oh, this is Mr. Horns 83 with Mr. Horns 83 Topic Show and part 2 of my flows with Nightmare on Elm Street 4 through 7. And I'm going to start with 4. 4, there's a lot of inconsistency. And the problem I had is why was it that Kristen was not the one that woke up Kincaid, or it wasn't, why was Kristen not the one to revive Freddy? It ended up being Kincaid's dog Jason, which made no sense to me. I mean, you pay attention, what purpose, I mean, well, I guess you could say since he bit Kristen at the beginning of 4, but it made no sense to me why Kincaid's dog Jason revived Freddy, and why Freddy was able to be revived that way. And instead of it being Kristen pulled into the dream world, it ended up being Kincaid, the first one to be pulled into the dream world, which also was kind of weird to me. But another thing too is they never explained how Kristen and Kincaid and Joey got out of the psych ward. They didn't explain it. They didn't say how many years it had been since they'd been in there. All they really went with was, you know, they still were friends with each other. Kristen was still going in the dream world, and Kincaid and Joey was trying to warn her that she's gonna eventually wake him up. She keeps going in, which she don't end up waking him up because she stayed awake the night that Kincaid and Joey both died. Another thing too is if Kristen really wanted to beat Freddy, why did she call Alice into the dream world? Because Kristen had dated Rick for quite a while, I'm guessing, maybe a year or two. So she had developed a good friendship with Alice as well, which Rick and Alice were brother and sister. And another thing too, I don't get why she never explained it sooner to Rick what about the Freddy stuff. And there's points which I'll talk about here in a minute, but you know, Kristen, when she realized Joey and Kincaid had died, then that's when she tells Rick about the story. And I figure she probably thought, well, Rick would think she was crazy if she told him, so that explains that. But then you know, after Kristen died, after she pulled Alice and gives her the powers and that, Alice starts, you know, watching old videos of Kristen, starts talking about Freddy herself. And up to that point, according to what they said at the beginning, Alice was able to control her dreams. Why she never controlled her dreams to keep Freddy from getting in them is beyond me throughout the movie. But, you know, and then when she's talking to Rick, and Rick's sitting there saying, you know, yeah, everything was going well until all this Freddy crap started, and then, you know, then Alice tells him, yeah, Freddy's real, you know, it's not made up, she's not psychotic, and he's kind of, you know, getting mad, and he says, stop it, you weren't crazy, and neither were you. But, so pretty much, then we get to a little closer toward the end, but, yeah, my biggest problem, another thing too, Amanda Kruger is absent this whole movie. I mean, she was a big part of 3. She helped Neil realize how to beat Freddy. But she's absent this one, and I can kind of understand why, because, you know, she plays a big part in Part 5, which I'll get to here in a sec. But all the inconsistency with the freaking story, period, in Nightmare 4. I know a lot of people have given it reviews about it was like the best rated Nightmare on Elm Street, I believe. 3 and 4 were. But the way she beat Freddy at the end, which I'll get to again here in a minute. But one thing that kind of got me is when she's getting prepared for the final battle with Freddy. Freddy sits there, and well, she gets dressed up, takes the memorabilia from everybody she collected that she pulled in and killed, or pulled in and gave to Freddy by accident. And she got Kristen Powers. But she says fucking A, which was Kincaid's main line. But see, she didn't get Kristen Powers until after Kincaid and Joey were dead. So it made no sense to me. Maybe they were just doing that to pay homage to Kincaid or what, but so I guess they were saying she got Kincaid's powers too, so then that means Kristen must have got them. Then if that was the case, why did she not have the strength and, the talking ability of Joey to freaking beat Freddy? But it was just, she could have made herself mute too to keep from hollering for Alice. She could have been, screw you, Freddy, you're getting beat right here. It's ending with me. But that's not what happened. She pulled Alice in. Another thing too, a lot of the characters in this movie really didn't start believing the story until a number of deaths just started randomly happening, because that's when Rick eventually started believing, and then, Rick eventually dies, which leads Alice, to get his karate skills. His karate skills were beating up the air to the movie, but, then at the end, her and Dan are talking. They're talking about, she says she ain't been able to sleep. She's like, but I have more reason to stay up. And I'm saying, well, you beat him. Which is another thing I did not like, how Freddy was beaten this. I didn't like how he was beaten part 1 either. The way he got beat can't be worse than getting kissed, but, the way he got beat was he saw his evil within himself, which I guess it kind of makes sense, but then again, it kind of doesn't. Because if that was the case, then why did Nancy or any of the characters prior to that use that against him? But, but then again, like I said, I was supposed to be a Dream Master, so. But, yeah, a lot of inconsistency. No explanation of how they got out of the psych ward. Doesn't explain how many years. And not only that, Kristen, Kincaid, and Joey apparently were simultaneously buried, one right after another, when it took a couple days after frickin' Joey and Kincaid died before, actually a day I guess, but she gets buried by where Nancy was, and Nancy's dad and all that, but I guess that was a way to pay homage to Nancy. But, yeah, pretty much, I will say 4 probably had less flaws than most of the other ones. Although 5, you could point out a lot of situations, which I'm getting to 5 right now. And the first thing is, how was Freddy able to get inside Alice? Because the whole point of the movie was he was able to get inside Alice, get to Alice's baby Jacob, and pretty much use Jacob's dreams to bring people in and kill. He used the dream to kill Dan. He used the dream to kill Greta. He used the dream, Alice was asleep with Mark, but Mark fell asleep himself. And Alice don't find out till after Dan dies that she's pregnant with a kid, which enters Jacob into the picture, and she doesn't realize that Jacob is her kid until pretty close toward the end of the movie, which, Alice is supposed to be super smart, or Dream Master and all, but, really. But next I gotta get to the situation with the Amanda Kruger stuff. How the heck was that able to be projected in Alice's mind about Amanda Kruger? Because she knew nothing about Amanda Kruger. Nancy did, because Neil told her. Well, she didn't know it was Amanda Kruger. She just knew it was someone that knew more about Freddy than her. But, maybe Nancy told Kristen. I didn't think she did. But how was it able to be projected in Alice's mind of what happened to Amanda Kruger? How, all this came to be. And how the heck, because the way Jacob was conceived was the opening credits of the movie, where you get the Dan and Alice sex scene. And after that, Alice goes to take a shower, and then the Amanda Kruger stuff happens, which I don't get how she was able to have that projected in her mind, because like I said, you don't find out she's pregnant until after Dan dies. So, and the fact that she couldn't sense she was pregnant before that was kind of, and they didn't show nothing of her showing symptoms of being pregnant or anything. They didn't have her have morning sickness. They just had her taking a shower. And then the water's like floating everywhere, and then, you know, all that. Then we get to the point where Freddy's resurrection. Alice ends up following a little girl who sings the Freddy song, but instead of ever sleep again this time, she put the word was added, he's back again. So I guess Alice couldn't put two and two together with that one either. But follows the little girl into the church, and then she has an Amanda Kruger flashback again, which still does not make sense how she's having these Amanda Kruger flashbacks. But at this point, it's probably pretty much, you know, proven that Freddy was inside her. But, you know, she, you know, they showed the birth of Freddy, even though Freddy didn't come out looking the way he did, but that was a way for him to get himself revived. Which how was Freddy able to have the power to do that? Because he needs the dreams to give himself that power. But I don't know, because prior to that, Alice did not dream about Freddy either. So pretty much that was a major plot hole too. We did get, you know, Alice saying, "I locked the door on you." Freddy comes up, rubs her belly. "I found the key." And then, you know, Amanda Kruger pops in. Also, there's a point where when Freddy's reviving himself, this arm, I believe, is long, really, really long. And that's the way it stayed throughout that scene. But then in the next scene, when he's killing Dan, his arm's back to normal. Which they never explained that either. And they never explained how many years it was between, and I'm guessing between 4 and 5, I'd say it was a 2 to 3 year gap between what happened in 4, because they're graduating high school, they're, you know, getting ready, I guess, to go to college and this and that. And parents trying to get him to become a professional football player. That didn't pan out. So now back to the whole, but then, you know, you think about it, and, you know, I'm sure as a kid I didn't realize what was going on myself, but once you get older you realize, you know, as you see Dan dying, he's going down what looks like a freaking, you know, the body of a woman that's leading to the part where the egg plant is. It happens with Dan, Greta, and it don't really happen with Mark, but, you know, another thing too, why was Greta so down about Dan dying? Did she, like, was there in a between, did, like, Dan and Alice have a fight between 4 and 5 where they were broke up for a bit? He got with Greta, and then he got back with Alice because of how much he loved her and what they had been through together with Freddy and all that in 4. Also the friendship with Rick, which Rick first, you know, when they first did that story arc of the friendship with Rick and Dan, at first it started out as Rick joking, but then as you see, it looked like they really were friends. But then we get to, let's see, what next? Alright, and then, you know, eventually Alice, Mark, they find out a lot about Amanda Kruger and what was going on, and, you know, Alice eventually realizes Amanda Kruger's trying to tell me how to beat him, and then, you know, Mark, because he's a nerd, he reads up on all this stuff, and, you know, big comic book nerd and all that. I also wonder, his Phantom character that he had in the movie, I wonder if that's based on the Phantom comic, the Phantom 2021 comic and all that. I don't know, but next up, Yvonne, she continues not believing that, you know, something supernatural is happening with all of her friends. She's in denial, kind of like the freaking doctors in 3. But, you know, there's a lot of flaws in 5. I really can't, I can't remember half of them, or I can't break them all down automatically, but I'm just going to jump to 6 now, so I can get to 7. Now, first things first, they never explained what happened to Alice. They never explained how the town of frickin' Springwood got wiped out by Freddy. Which pretty much prior to that we basically found out. And another thing too, the main character John Doe, I think he was Jacob from Five. And you know, because he lost his memory, you can't get a clear cut. He's just known as John throughout the whole movie. So it pretty much was a clear cut if he was Jacob or not. But it kind of, you know, when he eventually, and how come he was the last one to live? And the only thing I can think about is because of him being Jacob. I mean, because he lived in a house that looked similar to Alice's. Because of him being Jacob, he had to have Alice's dream powers. So maybe he was using Jacob to draw in his victims to wipe out the rest of the kids of Springwood. But, you know, Freddy vs. Jason kind of puts a different twist on that storyline. But, so Freddy sends him to another part, I guess of Springwood, or another part of Ohio, and we don't find out what his purpose was for sending him there, other than Freddy's kid, which I'll get into in a few more minutes. So he gets found, he gets brought to the shelter, then we get introduced to all the other characters, and you kind of have a character similar to Alice, and, dang, what was her frickin' name? I don't know.
Kathy?
Yeah, it was Catherine when it was revealed, but she was going by another name before she realized she was Catherine. But, I forgot her name. Then we get the other female main character. Then we get a male doctor who, if people are fans of James Bond, know who he is. But so we get all them introduced. He gets brought to the boys' home. We get Spencer Carlos introduced also. We get Kelly, who runs the shelter, and then they bring John to the shelter because the cops are too lazy to do paperwork, so they're like, let's just send him to the Bleeding Heart. Lazy cops. But they were Ohio cops, so. So, this is where the story kind of takes a plot twist, and one thing that did not make sense is John is dreaming after he falls asleep because he was singing 99 bottles of beers on the wall. And somebody throws a pillow at him and he says, I'm going to push your head against the wall or something like that if you don't shut up and go to sleep. So he sings a little bit more. Then we have the head, well, the female, I'll just call it Catherine, screw it. We have Catherine sleeping, and she's remembering, because he had the clip of apparently Freddy's wife, where in, you know, this is another continuity. Where in this freaking story did Freddy have time to get married and have a kid? But, and it seemed like that it was quite a while, and he pretty much tried to backwards, you know, blame that on why he killed people, even though he was doing that before he had the kid and got married. So, then after that we get John Doe sleeping, and young Catherine, as you find out later in the movie, is saying, I won't tell because you've seen her when he's in the plane trying to leave Springwood. She's like, he won't let you leave because you're the last. And she's talking to him, and he's like, tell me who I am. She's like, I won't tell. And then, you know, they're walking, he walks up the stairs in his sleep. And, you know, he's still on the first floor because he knocked the security guard through the window. But, then he goes into a white room with him, turns around, his head's dripping blood. He's like, free me, you idiot, I'm your fucking memory. And then he like freaks out, knocks the fucking security guard out the window. The security guard calls him an a-hole. And so that scene did not make any sense. I mean, had he got his memory back eventually, I would have said, yeah, it made more sense. But he never really kind of got his memory back. So the Catherine takes him to back to Springwood because she thinks it'll spark his amnesia. And then Spencer, Carlos, and I can't think of her freaking name either. And the main female character other than Catherine. Yeah. We'll be watching 6 Friday. I'll have the memories of it. I'll have the names remembered by then. But so they were trying to escape, and John fell asleep, and Catherine's driving, and then they hit a bump. He's like, "I told you if I fall asleep, to wake me." And then you see the version of the young Catherine again, and he's like telling her, "You're gonna hit her," trying to swerve, and it's just all in his head. And then that's when Carlos and all them come tumbling out. So they're in Springwood. They're looking around. They realize there's no kids around. The town had went crazy. There's even part where Roseanne Barr shows up. Her and Tom Arnold. I guess when they were still married. And she's sitting there saying, "You're so cute. Looky." And I'm guessing adults are starting to believe in Freddie in Springwood because Tom Arnold's character comes up and says, "Ethel, what are you doing?" She's like, "I want my children back." He's like, "You know they bring him." And then the bell rings, and then he's like, "See what you've done." And the kids are freaking out. They leave. Then Catherine tells Carlos and all of them they need to go back to the cabin, but they're pretty much trapped there now because they traveled into Freddy's room. So afterward, Catherine and John go into the school. There's all these histories about, Freddy and this and that. It's kind of like, I don't know, it was a Freddy history class. So then they're looking at these news clippings of all the Elm Street murders, all the Springwood murders, and they said these are all within a 10-year time span, which doesn't make no sense because, like I said, if you think about part 1 and 3, 6-year gap between that. Between 3 and 4, there's probably like maybe 2 to 3 years difference. Between 4 and 5, probably a 2 to 3 year difference. And now 10 years. So that's got to at least be freaking 12 years, maybe 13. But anyway, then they, John starts like realizing that Freddy had a kid. Like I said, how the heck Freddy had time to have kids? Beyond me, why would they let him have a kid knowing he was suspected for murder and all that? I don't know. But, we eventually find out the kid was taken away. He kills the wife, this and that. And, so, pretty much a lot of flaws. I'm trying to wrap this up because it is getting late. But, so I'm just going to skip the freaking... I'm going to skip the 7. You can, if it was earlier, I'd break it down even more. I mean, because this is the second time I had to do this. The camera was screwed up the first time. So, the second time. 7. My biggest flaw with this movie was they tried to make it seem like it was realistic. Like it was a movie about a movie being made, which made no sense to me because... Oh, another thing, too. This is another reason why I believe 2 was not canon. And the main purpose is... when Nancy's on a talk show, Heather is on a talk show, we find out, they say something about the nightmares, or like, I don't know, she might have been talking to the producers of the movie or whatever, and they said something about the original 5. They never mentioned 6 of them. They said the original 5. So... either they want to make 6 not canon, or 2 is, like I said, not canon, because it really doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the Nightmare on Elm Street. The rest of the Nightmare, even in 6, Freddy's still going after people in dreams. I believe that Jacob was John Doe. All the other stuff, may not have been canon. You can even make the joke, maybe the freaking doctor, the dream doctor, was